chosen one. This message isn't random. This isn't coincidence. This is divine confirmation. I must tell you what heaven revealed about you. The angel showed me your face, your struggles, your questions, your destiny. You've been marked for transformation that cannot be reversed. What you are becoming doesn't require human approval or permission. It has been confirmed in the spiritual realm. The angel showed me your exact path, chosen one. Before we go deeper, pause for a moment. If this message is already speaking to your spirit, don't just watch silently. Subscribe now so you don't miss the confirmations God sends your way. You know how the enemy tries to distract you right when you need a word the most. The enemy has been watching you. Did you know that? The attacks against you weren't random. The opposition didn't appear because you were weak. It appeared because you are dangerous to darkness. The warfare increased because your light threatens what hides in shadows. You've felt it recently, the heaviness, the strange blockages, the unusual resistance. This isn't confusion, this is confirmation. Heaven isn't confused about you. Hell isn't confused about you. Only you have doubted what God placed inside you. The dreams you've been having, the numbers you keep seeing, the sudden knowing that comes over you, these aren't coincidences. These are markers of your awakening. Your spiritual DNA is activating. Within the past month, you've noticed changes. You resist old temptations more easily. You remain calm in situations that once overwhelmed you. You forgive quicker. You trust despite uncertainty. Your intuition has sharpened. This message found you because you're ready to step into what God ordained before you were born. The angel showed me everything you're becoming, and it's more magnificent than what you've imagined. 3 nights ago, you had that vivid dream. You woke up with clarity you couldn't explain. That wasn't your imagination. That was heaven breaking through the veil. You will 100% become what God ordained, not because life has been easy, but because resistance was proof of your calling. What looked like barriers were actually training grounds. What felt like rejection was divine protection. The painful separations weren't punishment, they were protection. Remember when those friendships suddenly dissolved? When people pulled away the moment you began growing? When doors closed without explanation? God was removing you from environments too small for what He placed inside you. You've been in a divine isolation, a sacred preparation chamber. This wasn't rejection, this was heaven's hand shielding you from premature exposure. What you carry is too valuable to be released in toxic spaces. Those nights you cried alone, heaven recorded every tear. The prayers that never reached human ears were documented in spiritual records. Nothing was wasted. Nothing went unseen. The loneliness served a purpose. In silence, your spiritual hearing sharpened. In solitude, your discernment developed. In isolation, your dependence shifted from people to God. This wasn't abandonment, this was advancement. 3 months ago, during prayer, you felt a presence. Something shifted in your room. The air felt different. You weren't imagining it. An angelic messenger was dispatched to confirm your path. Even now, as you hear these words, that same presence returns. The covenant of isolation is ending. What was hidden will now be revealed. What was forming in darkness will emerge in light. The training season closes. The manifestation season begins. But first, understand why certain people had to leave. Some were assignments, not attachments. Some were permitted to observe, not to participate. Some studied your weaknesses while smiling to your face. Their distance wasn't your failure, it was your protection. Look around your life. Notice who remains. These are your divine connections. These stood the test of time and trial. These recognized what God placed in you before you fully saw it yourself. The isolation covenant revealed who truly belonged in your inner circle. It exposed hidden jealousy. It unveiled masked intentions. God filtered your relationships so only genuine support would surround you during your elevation. What felt like abandonment was actually alignment. What seemed like rejection was really redirection. The empty spaces weren't punishment, they were preparation for who and what is coming next. God is now activating your spiritual discernment. You've wondered why certain people suddenly triggered alarm in your spirit, why conversations felt off, why some praise felt empty. This wasn't paranoia. This was divine protection. Your eyes are opening to see beyond physical reality. The spiritual battles happening around you are becoming visible. Those headaches that come during certain meetings, that heaviness when specific names are mentioned, that's your spirit recognizing what your natural mind couldn't see. Remember that mentor who suddenly turned against you. The one who once celebrated your gifts but began to criticize everything you did? Their mask has fallen. What looked like guidance was control. What appeared as wisdom was jealousy. They recognized your calling before you did, and it threatened them. Not everyone assigned to your life was sent by God. Some were sent to test your discernment, others to strengthen your boundaries, a few to reveal what was hidden in your own heart. None of these encounters were wasted. Each showed you something essential about your path. Your dreams have been showing you the truth. Those recurring scenes of closed doors, forgotten passwords, missed appointments, those weren't random. They revealed invisible blockages in your waking life. The spiritual war manifests first in dreams before appearing in reality. But recently, something shifted. Remember that impossible situation that suddenly resolved, the door that opened when everyone said it would stay closed, the provision that arrived at the final hour? That was your first victory. The moment heaven backed your authority. The people who doubted you fell silent. The ones who mocked your faith couldn't explain what happened. This wasn't coincidence. This was confirmation. Your first demonstration of spiritual authority left no room for debate. Now you understand why the enemy worked so hard to make you doubt yourself. Your confidence activates your authority. Your voice carries power that changes atmospheres. Your prayers shift circumstances. The enemy isn't fighting your actions, he's fighting your awareness. Then came the breaking, the unexpected financial collapse. The accounts emptied without explanation. The opportunities that vanished overnight. The contracts cancelled without cause. This wasn't random hardship. This was targeted warfare. Your health began to suffer. Strange symptoms that doctors couldn't diagnose. Exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. Pain that moved throughout your body. Medical tests showing nothing wrong while your body clearly signaled distress. The attacks shifted from external to internal. You began to question your sanity. The spiritual sensitivity intensified beyond what felt manageable. You sensed emotions not your own. You knew things you had no way of knowing. You felt the weight of battles happening in unseen realms. This overwhelming awareness made you wonder if you were losing touch with reality. The isolation deepened. Even those who remained couldn't understand what you experienced. How could you explain sensing darkness around certain people, knowing outcomes before they happened, feeling heaven's approval or disapproval in your body? The gap between your perception and others widened until conversation became impossible. This breaking point wasn't the end. It was the necessary emptying before refilling, the complete dismantling before rebuilding, the death before resurrection. In your darkest moment, when you questioned everything, your calling, your sanity, your worth, the heavenly messenger appeared. Perhaps not with physical eyes, but you felt the presence. The sudden peace that made no sense, the clarity that cut through confusion, the warmth that dispelled fear. The divine message became clear. This breaking wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Your old structures couldn't contain your new assignment. Your previous mindsets couldn't sustain your elevated authority. Your former strength had to fail, so supernatural strength could replace it. What looked like destruction was actually foundation laying. What felt like abandonment was intimate training. What appeared as defeat was positioning for victory. The breaking wasn't to destroy you, it was to rebuild you according to heaven's blueprint, not earth's expectations. Your finances collapsed because money can become a false security. Your health challenged because physical strength can become an idol. Your relationships tested because human approval can become a prison. Every support was removed so you would stand on faith alone. Listen. I know you're watching quietly, just taking everything in. But chosen ones like you don't come across these messages by accident. If this is touching your soul, hit that subscribe button. Don't keep walking through spiritual warfare alone when a whole family of chosen ones is right here with you. Then came the midnight seasons, those hours when sleep abandoned you but heaven drew near. The 2 a.m. awakenings that confused you at first. Why were your dreams suddenly so vivid, so detailed, so accurate? These weren't random disruptions, they were divine appointments. The quietest hours became your classroom. While others slept, you received wisdom beyond human teaching. Downloads of knowledge you never studied. Understanding of scriptures you barely read. Insights into situations you knew nothing about. Your prayer life transformed. What began as desperate cries became powerful declarations. Words flowed that weren't your own. Names appeared in your mind of people needing prayer. Situations revealed that required intervention. Your prayers shifted from asking to commanding, from begging to decreeing. The supernatural became natural. Your hands grew warm during prayer. Your words carried authority that surprised even you. Remember that moment when someone mentioned their pain, and without thinking, you reached out. The shock on their face when the pain instantly left? That wasn't coincidence. That was your first healing miracle. The enemy's response was immediate. The attacks intensified. The more your gifts manifested, the fiercer the opposition grew. Strange accidents, unusual obstacles, increased conflict, financial blockages appeared from nowhere. The warfare proportionally matched your emerging authority. Yet something else happened too. People began responding differently to your presence. Some drawn inexplicably close, others uncomfortable without reason. There's something different about you, they'd say, unable to identify what changed. They sensed the anointing without being told. They felt the authority without seeing it demonstrated. Those who walked in similar callings recognized you immediately. Divine connections appeared, people who understood without explanation, who confirmed what God spoke to you in secret, who validated the vision when you doubted yourself. The midnight training prepared you for what daylight couldn't teach. In darkness, your spiritual senses sharpened. In silence, your discernment deepened. In solitude, your authority strengthened. What appeared as insomnia was actually initiation. What felt like exhaustion was elevation. Your spirit grew stronger while your flesh grew weaker. Your natural mind questioned while your spirit soared. Your human timeline stalled while your eternal purpose accelerated. Stop right here. If you haven't subscribed yet, ask yourself why. Every time you search for clarity, every time you feel overwhelmed, God guides you to messages like this. Don't reject what heaven is trying to give you. Subscribe so you stay connected to the voice that lifts you when no one else does. Then came the vision that changed everything. Perhaps during prayer, perhaps during worship, perhaps during that moment when you finally surrendered completely. The veil between worlds thinned, and you caught a glimpse of what happens beyond natural sight. You saw them, heavenly beings in council, not with physical eyes, but with spiritual perception. Their voices unlike anything earthly, their presence both terrifying and comforting. They weren't discussing world events or government leaders. They were discussing you. Your name was known there, your struggles documented, your tears counted, your prayers recorded. Nothing was missed, nothing overlooked, nothing forgotten. The battles that nearly broke you were all witnessed and weighed. You learned a profound truth. Heaven keeps better records than earth. What humans forgot, angels remembered. What people dismissed, heaven documented. Your faithfulness in small things, your obedience when it cost everything, your worship during weeping. The council revealed something that shook you, a timeline for your vindication, specific dates, defined seasons, clear markers, within 3 months. Before the year ends, as the new season begins. These weren't vague somedays, but divine appointments already scheduled. For the first time, you glimpsed your completed destiny. Not the fragmented pieces you've imagined, but the full picture as heaven sees it. The impact, the influence, the authority, the inheritance. The magnitude stunned you. This couldn't be you. This seemed impossible, yet deep within, recognition stirred. This was always the plan. Most shocking was understanding why specific enemies targeted you with such persistence. They weren't fighting who you are now, they were fighting who you're becoming. They saw the future when you couldn't. They recognized your authority before you claimed it. Their opposition wasn't about your past failures, but your future victories. The warfare made sense suddenly. The betrayals, the closed doors, the financial attacks, the relationship breakdowns. Each was a strategic attempt to prevent what heaven had already decreed. The enemy doesn't waste resources fighting those who pose no threat. You received comfort knowing your struggle was acknowledged in realms beyond earth. Your patience rewarded, your perseverance honored, your pain validated. The council's verdict was clear. Everything taken would be restored, multiplied. Every tear would produce joy. Every rejection would birth divine connection. This glimpse beyond the veil forever changed how you view your journey. What looks like delay on earth is perfect timing in heaven. What feels like defeat in time is victory in eternity. What seems like abandonment to human eyes is intricate positioning to spiritual ones. After the breaking, heaven sent comfort. Or so it seemed. Remember when that person suddenly appeared, the one who understood everything you were experiencing, who spoke your language of faith, who validated your journey when everyone else questioned it. Their arrival felt divine. Their words echoed what God spoke to you in private. Their knowledge of spiritual matters impressed you. They knew scripture. They understood warfare. They recognized your calling when others missed it. The connection was instant. The conversations flowed effortlessly. The prayer sessions felt powerful. Finally, someone who truly understood, someone who saw you, someone who believed in your purpose without question. Yet something nagged at your spirit. Those dreams where their face distorted. Those moments when their words didn't align with their actions. Those slight manipulations you excused because you needed the connection so desperately. The subtle ways they positioned themselves between you and other relationships. You ignored the warning signals, the red flags, the unease during prayer, the heaviness after conversations, the way they needed to know everything about your calling but shared little about their own, how they praised publicly but criticized privately, how they always had access to your vulnerabilities while keeping theirs hidden. The betrayal blindsided you despite the warnings. Perhaps it came through exposed lies, through discovered manipulation, through revealed jealousy, through attempted sabotage. The person who claimed to support your destiny was actively working to derail it. Their true assignment wasn't to help but to hinder, not to elevate but to entangle, not to confirm but to confuse. They studied your weaknesses not to strengthen you but to exploit you. They mapped your destiny not to support it but to subvert it. They earned your trust not to protect it but to break it. You questioned your discernment. How could you have missed the signs? How could someone so spiritually knowledgeable harbor such darkness? How could words of blessing mask intentions to curse? The enemy's most effective deceptions always mix truth with lies, light with darkness, blessing with poison. Then came divine intervention, perhaps through another person's warning, perhaps through exposed messages, perhaps through direct revelation. The mask fell completely, leaving no room for doubt or denial. What remained was painful truth. This connection was a strategic assignment from the enemy. The separation hurt deeper than the betrayal. Cutting ties felt like losing a limb. The emptiness afterward seemed unbearable. Yet, in that void, clarity returned. Without their voice confusing yours, heaven's direction became clearer. Without their manipulation clouding judgment, discernment sharpened. Without their hidden agenda competing with divine purpose, alignment restored. This wasn't failure. This was freedom. This wasn't setback. This was salvation. This wasn't loss. This was liberation. Then came the moment of public testing, the situation that required more than human wisdom or strength, the crisis that demanded supernatural intervention, the challenge too great for natural ability alone. This was your authority test. Perhaps it happened at work, where impossible deadlines loomed. Perhaps in ministry, where someone's crisis required immediate breakthrough. Perhaps in family, where long-standing issues reached breaking point. Perhaps financially, where resources vanished but obligations remained. You faced three options: retreat in fear, respond in flesh, or rise in faith. The first two felt safer. The third felt impossible. Yet something had changed within you. The midnight training, the divine counsel revelation, the false ally exposure. Each prepared you for this moment. Without planning words in advance, authority rose from within. Your voice changed, your posture shifted. Your words carried weight beyond their meaning. You spoke to the situation as one with jurisdiction over it, not begging for change but commanding it, not hoping for shift but requiring it. Those present noticed immediately. The atmosphere altered, the heaviness lifted, the confusion cleared. What seemed immovable began to yield. What appeared permanent started shifting. What felt final showed signs of reversing. The results defied natural explanation. Problems resolved without logical intervention. Resources appeared from unexpected sources. Relationships healed without typical processes. Blocks removed without usual effort. Your words accomplished what months of labor couldn't produce. Witnesses stood shocked. Some fell silent. Others questioned openly. A few recognized divine intervention immediately. The mockers from your past watched from distance, their criticism silenced by undeniable results. Some who once ridiculed now approached privately, seeking the source of your confidence. What changed? How did you know what to do? Where did this authority come from? Your public victory triggered private attacks. The enemy, embarrassed by visible defeat, launched assault on your identity. Whispers spread, questioning your motives. Rumors circulated, doubting your character. Accusations formed, suggesting manipulation. Your methods scrutinized, your integrity challenged, your reputation targeted. This attack wasn't random. This was strategic retaliation. The enemy couldn't stop your authority, so he attacked your credibility. He couldn't prevent your miracle, so he questioned your methods. He couldn't block your breakthrough, so he tried breaking your reputation. Yet something had shifted permanently. You no longer needed human validation. You no longer required public approval. You no longer depended on others' understanding. Your audience had changed from people to God alone. Your confidence rested not in reputation but in relationship with heaven. This authority test revealed what training had deposited. Your breaking had produced unshakable foundation. Your isolation had developed unmovable confidence. Your betrayal had created unbendable resolve. Then came the season no one warned you about. The darkness deeper than isolation, the silence louder than criticism, the emptiness vaster than loneliness, the dark night. Every support system failed simultaneously. Family members withdrew, friends disappeared, mentors went silent, financial resources dried up, ministry doors closed, health challenges intensified. Prayer seemed to hit a ceiling, worship felt empty, scripture brought no comfort. The attacks against your mind reached unprecedented levels. Thoughts you never imagined thinking invaded your consciousness. Doubt unlike anything you'd experienced before. Questions about everything, your calling, your faith, your sanity, your worth. Was any of it real? Were you deceived all along? Was this journey just elaborate self-deception? Most painful was heaven's apparent silence. The God who had spoken so clearly now seemed absent. The angels who had appeared so vividly were nowhere found. The confirmations that had come so regularly suddenly ceased. Prayers that once brought immediate response now echoed unanswered. You searched for sin, for open doors, for unforgiveness, for anything that might explain this abandonment. You fasted, you prayed, you wept, you begged. Nothing changed. The heavens remained brass. The silence continued. The darkness deepened. This wasn't a test of your gifts, but of your identity. Not of your doing, but of your being. Not of your service, but of your surrender. When everything connected to your purpose was stripped away, what remained? Who were you without the calling, without the gifts, without the vision, without the confirmation? The breaking point came not through greater revelation, but through complete surrender. The moment you finally stopped striving, stopped performing, stopped trying to earn what was given by grace. The moment you said, even if nothing changes, even if the silence continues, even if the darkness remains, you are enough. In that surrender, you discovered what the dark night was designed to reveal. Beneath the gifts was giver. Beyond the calling was the caller. Past the purpose was the person. Your relationship with God wasn't based on what you did for Him, but who you were to Him. Not on your performance, but on His presence. This dark night wasn't punishment, it was promotion. Not rejection, but refinement. Not abandonment, but advancement. Every great vessel must experience emptying before greater filling. Every deep foundation requires extensive excavation. Every masterpiece demands thorough preparation of the canvas. The darkness wasn't absence of light, but intensity of transformation. Just as the caterpillar must dissolve completely within the cocoon before emerging as a butterfly, you were undergoing divine dissolution. What emerges will bear little resemblance to what entered. The dream came without warning, more vivid than any before, more real than waking life. You stood in a place that existed beyond physical reality, the light different, the air charged with authority, the atmosphere heavy with holiness. Before you stretched a vast council chamber, beings of light arranged in perfect order, their faces both ancient and ageless, their presence both terrifying and comforting. At the center, a seat of authority occupied by one whose appearance you couldn't fully comprehend. The proceedings had already begun. Evidence presented, testimonies given, documents reviewed. You realized with shock this case was about you, your journey, your suffering, your faithfulness, your perseverance. Nothing was missed, nothing overlooked. Every tear counted, every prayer recorded, every act of obedience noted. Then came the verdict, a decree spoken with such authority that creation itself seemed to tremble in response. Enough. The opposition had gone too far. The attacks exceeded permissions. The suffering fulfilled its purpose. The testing completed its work. Judgment against your enemies was pronounced, not with hatred but with perfect justice, not with vengeance but with righteous authority. 3 specific names mentioned people who had worked intentionally against your purpose. Their actions exposed, their motives revealed, their consequences declared. The timeline was precise. Within 30 days, the first will face exposure. Within 90 days, the second will experience removal. Within 180 days, the third will witness collapse. These weren't vague possibilities, but divine certainties, already set in motion, already decreed, already inescapable. You awoke with supernatural peace. Something had shifted permanently. The darkness lifted, the heaviness dissolved, the confusion cleared. You knew something beyond knowing. You understood something beyond understanding. The verdict had been rendered, and heaven's court had ruled in your favor. Within days, evidence appeared. The first signs of vindication manifested, perhaps a text message apologizing for past actions, perhaps news about sudden changes in your opposition's circumstances, perhaps public recognition of truth you had spoken privately. The spiritual verdict beginning to materialize in physical reality. Then it happened, the first major domino fell. The enemy who had worked most aggressively against you experienced dramatic downfall. Without your involvement, without your action, without your revenge. Divine justice executing itself perfectly. What took years to build collapsed in days. What operated in secret exposed to public view. What seemed invincible proved utterly vulnerable to heaven's decree. Your reputation began shifting without effort. People who believed lies suddenly questioned their sources. Those who distanced themselves cautiously reconnected. Opportunities previously blocked mysteriously reopened. The restoration had begun. Stop right here. If you haven't subscribed yet, ask yourself why. Every time you search for clarity, every time you feel overwhelmed, God guides you to messages like this. Don't reject what heaven is trying to give you. Subscribe so you stay connected to the voice that lifts you when no one else does. Then came the vision you never expected. During prayer, or perhaps during worship, or that moment of complete stillness, you saw what human eyes rarely witness. The sacred ceremony, the divine commissioning, the mantle bestowed. You stood in that place between worlds, where heaven touches earth. Light surrounded you, not from any source, but simply existing everywhere. Before you stood messengers of fire, their presence both holy and fierce. In their hands, they held what appeared as garments, but these were no ordinary clothes. These were spiritual vestments of authority, woven with divine purpose. One approached you, holding what seemed like a robe of light. Words were spoken over you, words in a language your mind couldn't comprehend, but your spirit fully understood. The time of preparation ends. The time of authority begins. What was formed in secret now manifests openly. What was tested in fire now functions in power. As the garment settled upon you, knowledge flooded your consciousness. Understanding beyond study. wisdom beyond experience, discernment beyond natural ability. This wasn't information being given, this was transformation being completed. The next day, something had changed. Your prayers carried immediate effect. Words spoken manifested without delay. Declarations created instant shifts in atmosphere. The gap between prayer and manifestation compressed until they seemed to happen simultaneously. You spoke healing, and bodies responded. You declared provision, and resources appeared. You commanded peace, and chaos yielded. Those who once persecuted you began approaching cautiously, some with genuine remorse, others with quiet curiosity. "Something's different about you," they'd say, unable to name what they perceived. Some apologized without prompting, others sought your blessing without understanding why. Your presence now carried authority they couldn't deny, but couldn't fully explain. Doors began opening without effort. Opportunities appeared without application. Connections formed without networking. Phone calls came from unexpected sources. Messages arrived from unlikely allies. Platforms offered without request. Each perfectly aligned with the vision heaven showed you years ago. The financial restoration began flowing from channels you never anticipated. Unexpected refunds, surprising gifts, overlooked inheritances, business opportunities with minimal investment but maximum return, debts cancelled, mortgages paid, resources multiplying beyond explanation. This wasn't random blessing, this was calculated restoration. The exact measure of what was stolen returned multiplied, the precise value of what was lost restored sevenfold. The enemy's plan to bankrupt you now resulted in abundance that funds your assignment. The mantle wasn't given for comfort but for commission, not for status but for service, not for personal gain but for kingdom advance. The authority comes with accountability, the power with purpose, the anointing with assignment. Then heaven began connecting the separated ones, those who, like you, endured isolation, who survived betrayal, who emerged from breaking, who passed their authority tests, who experienced their own dark nights and mantle ceremonies. The connections happened supernaturally, perhaps through dreams where you saw faces before meeting them, through chance, encounters that felt divinely orchestrated, through online messages that resonated at soul level, through mutual connections who felt compelled to introduce you. The recognition was immediate, no lengthy explanations needed, no convincing required, no proving necessary. You knew them, and they knew you. Different backgrounds, different journeys, different gifts, yet identical spiritual frequency, same heavenly language, same divine assignment. These weren't casual connections but strategic alliances, not based on personality but on purpose, not formed through common interests but through complementary callings, each bringing what others lacked, each seeing what others missed, each strengthening where others weakened. Together, you began understanding the larger picture, your individual assignments forming parts of a greater whole, your separate revelations completing a fuller message, your distinct giftings creating a more powerful impact when combined. What seemed isolated missions now revealed as coordinated movement. As trust deepened, training began. Those further along mentoring those just beginning, those with established gifts developing those with emerging abilities, those with battle scars teaching those facing first conflicts, knowledge transferred, wisdom shared, experience translated, not through formal programs, but through life-on-life impartation. The provision flowed through unexpected channels. Resources appeared that matched exact needs. Finances manifested precisely when required. Spaces opened exactly when necessary. Equipment arrived specifically when useful. The provision wasn't excessive, but excellent. Not wasteful, but wonderfully sufficient. Most remarkable was the protective barrier surrounding your alliance. Attempts to infiltrate failed mysteriously. Efforts to divide dissolved inexplicably. Plans to sabotage exposed automatically. The enemy who once accessed your life freely now found entrance impossible. What changed? The alignment created protection that individual positioning couldn't provide. Together you began witnessing breakthrough at levels impossible alone. Healing accelerated, deliverance deepened, prophecy sharpened, provision multiplied, impact widened. What took years in isolation now manifested in moments through alliance. One put 1,000 to flight, but two put 10,000, the exponential power of divine connection. The loneliness that once defined your journey transformed into belonging that defied explanation. These weren't just ministry partners but spiritual family. Not just colleagues but covenant companions. Not just friends but fellow soldiers. You recognized the truth: you were never meant to complete your assignment alone. The isolation prepared you for authentic connection, not perpetual separation. Then came the season of confident authority. No more hesitation, no more second-guessing, no more waiting for permission. You stepped fully into what God ordained, moving with certainty that surprised even you. The timidity that once hindered your voice vanished completely. The fear that once limited your actions dissolved entirely. You began operating in authority as naturally as breathing. No longer needing to summon courage or gather strength, power simply flowed through you. Your words carried immediate effect. Your prayers produced instant results. Your presence shifted atmospheres without effort. What once required hours of intercession now happened through simple declaration. Signs and wonders became your daily reality. Not occasional miracles, but consistent manifestations. Healing followed your touch. Deliverance accompanied your command. Provision appeared at your decree. These weren't dramatic displays for attention, but natural expressions of kingdom authority. Your influence extended beyond natural limitations. People you never met responded to messages you never directly shared with them. Communities you never visited began implementing principles you taught elsewhere. Leaders you never approached sought your counsel unprompted. Your impact transcended physical presence, touching lives through channels you couldn't trace. Former critics became unlikely advocates. Those who once mocked your faith now defended your character. People who dismissed your message now quoted your words. Opposition that once seemed permanent transformed into support that appeared unstoppable. Not through your defense, but through divine vindication. Strategic relationships formed without your initiative. People positioned specifically to amplify your message. Partners equipped uniquely to complement your gifts. Connections designed divinely to extend your reach. Each arriving precisely when needed, not a moment too early or late. Government leaders sought private meetings. Business executives requested discreet counsel. Religious authorities asked humble questions. Those with earthly power recognized heavenly authority, not because you pursued influence, but because authentic authority attracts attention. The enemy's attacks changed strategy completely, no longer targeting your confidence but your humility, no longer attacking your resources but your stewardship, no longer undermining your gifts but your character. The warfare shifted because your position shifted. What once required your defeat now demanded your corruption, yet heaven prepared you for this too. The breaking season protected you from pride. The isolation preserved your motives. The dark night purified your heart. What the enemy meant for destruction actually equipped you for elevation without corruption. Then, the restoration promises began manifesting visibly, not partially, but completely, not gradually, but suddenly, not temporarily, but permanently. Everything stolen, returned, multiplied. Everything broken, restored stronger. Everything delayed, delivered perfectly. Financial restoration came first. Unexpected checks arriving with exact amounts of previous losses plus interest. Business ventures succeeding beyond projections. Investments multiplying inexplicably. Properties appreciating dramatically. Resources flowing from sources you never cultivated. This wasn't random prosperity but calculated recompense. Divine accounting with perfect records. Family healing followed with stunning speed. Relationships fractured for decades, mending without explanation. Estranged relatives reaching out spontaneously. Generational patterns breaking irreversibly. The same family members who once rejected your faith now asking for prayer. The very relatives who mocked your calling now defending your ministry. Not through your convincing, but through their own divine encounters. Your physical body experienced supernatural renewal. Chronic conditions disappearing without treatment. Energy returning without explanation. Aging processes seemingly reversing. Mental clarity sharpening dramatically. The warfare that once targeted your health now rendered powerless against divine restoration. Your words took on creative force that astounded witnesses. What you spoke consistently manifested, not through magical thinking but through aligned authority. You discovered the power wasn't in the words themselves, but in the alignment between your declarations and heaven's intentions. When you spoke what God purposed, creation itself responded. Recognition came from unexpected places. Public acknowledgement of your contribution, formal honors for your impact, official validation of your message. Not from sources you pursued, but from institutions that once ignored you. Not through your promotion, but through divine positioning. Most meaningful was seeing the prophecies spoken over you decades ago finally fulfilled. Those words that seemed impossible now manifested as reality. Those promises that appeared forgotten now realized in fullness. Every detail, every nuance, every specific, exactly as declared, though through paths you never anticipated. You recognized the profound truth. The delay was never denial. The waiting was never wasting. The silence was never absence. The suffering was never punishment. The opposition was never obstruction. Everything, every tear, every rejection, every attack, every betrayal served divine purpose. What the enemy meant for your destruction, God transformed into your development. The restoration wasn't just returning to original condition, but elevating to supernatural position. Not merely repairing damage, but recreating with enhancement. Not simply recovering losses, but receiving upgrades. This was restoration, according to heaven's blueprint, not earth's expectation. Now you stand transformed, not merely improved, but fundamentally remade. The person you were at the beginning of this journey no longer exists. What emerged through fire, through breaking, through darkness, bears little resemblance to what entered. This was always the intention, not refinement, but rebirth. You see now how every trial served divine purpose. The isolation wasn't punishment, but protection. The betrayal wasn't failure, but filtering. The breaking wasn't cruelty, but creation. The dark night wasn't abandonment, but advancement. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Nothing was without precise purpose. Your understanding transcends human wisdom. You perceive patterns invisible to others. You recognize divine fingerprints where most see coincidence. You discern heavenly timing where others see delay. You interpret spiritual language where many hear only noise. This isn't education, this is enlightenment. Not information acquired, but transformation completed. The final confrontation with your chief adversary arrived unexpectedly, not through dramatic showdown but through quiet authority. The enemy who tormented for years suddenly rendered powerless, not through elaborate warfare, but through established identity. Your presence alone now disrupts darkness. Your authority itself dismantles opposition. The battle isn't fought, it's already won before engagement begins. Your legacy extends beyond personal achievement. The mantle you wear will pass to others. The authority you carry will transfer to the prepared. The breakthroughs you experienced will become inheritance for generations. What God established through you continues beyond you. This was never about personal elevation, but kingdom extension. Not about individual success, but generational impact. Most profound is the revelation that this entire journey from divine marking to crown of purpose was merely preparation, the foundation for what comes next, the training for greater assignment, the qualification for higher authority. This wasn't the destination but the development, not the conclusion but the commencement. You stand now fully transformed into divine image, fully aligned with heavenly purpose, fully equipped for kingdom advance, fully prepared for eternal impact. The angel's confirmation manifests completely. You have become 100% what God ordained, not through human achievement, but through divine accomplishment, not by personal strength, but by supernatural transformation. This is just the beginning. Before you go, chosen one, don't forget, the fact that you made it to the end of this message means something. Your spirit needed this. Don't walk away without subscribing. It costs nothing, but it means everything for the journey God is taking you on. Join the family. Your breakthrough might be in the next video.